Very
Hi,
good.
this is Janice Perkins with Capacity. Good morning. Today I'm joined by Pete Meitzner, County Commissioner, Sedgwick County, Kansas. How are you this morning, sir?
Janice, I'm fine. Thank you. Appreciate you asking.
You had just a little pause because you guys did you sleep at all? You guys have been disseminating the governor's announcement last night and been meeting all morning. So I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to give everyone your on the bright side for how Sedgwick County is moving forward.
Okay, in the simplest comment to start with is with the governor's order, for the most part, the state and our local economy, we're open for business at 12:01 a.m. Monday morning. So after Sunday night, after midnight Sunday, we're open. Now, mainly meaning restaurants, retail shops, and so, but there is some questions that we've been having, so I'd like to clear up in this conversation.
Okay. What are the biggest questions that you have based on how you are interpreting the governor's orders?
Well, I've been involved with this. The biggest question that people have is, let's just talk about the 10-person gathering.
Right.
That seems to be the biggest question. And boy, there's a lot of assumptions. They're incorrect. So the 10-person gathering means that a group of 10, and there's a definition of mass gatherings, but when it rolls out on Sunday or on Monday morning, a group of 10 can be together and like at a restaurant. So most restaurants is a group of 4, and 6, 2, whatever, but a group of 10 can be in a restaurant, and then they have to have 6-foot spacing between themselves and the next party that's at the restaurant, or in the retail shops, or kind of people are on the move. So this is trying to avoid, the intent was to avoid a big park having a big cookout, the chili cook-offs, the parades. They don't want mass gatherings for an extended period of time. So this 10 number allows a restaurant to have 10, technically 6 feet,
apart.
another 10 next feet. So
which most people will be able to accommodate that because of booth structure and table layout.
Right.
If it's 2, 2, 2, 2, and those booths are connected, then there's still 6 feet to the next row in what you're saying. So there's not going to have to be a lot of shifting necessarily on the floor of a restaurant, maybe.
Right. Some restaurants are even putting, if there's a back-to-back booths, if they put up a plexiglass, that's okay.
Okay.
And so what a restaurant's going to probably have to worry about more is if they have a restaurant that includes the bar area traditionally. Right. So a couple could, a couple or maybe 4, but a couple could sit at the bar, but they need to be 6 foot away from, there needs to be, the bar stools need to be either X'd off or vacant for the next couple or 6 people. And then they should be 6 feet apart from that closest table. So now this goes for churches as well. I mean, you can now, I think churches are going to have their own guidelines, but churches can be a group of, especially a family of 6, 8, 10 can be in a pew. Then they got to be 6 foot apart.
Okay.
And I think the churches are trying to say, if somebody's sitting there, you can't be in the pew right in front of them or right behind them. There's got to be a pew in between.
Okay, that was my very next question, because the biggest questions I have in the circles that I run in, it would be church as well as then sports, which I do think for youth and kids, right, is opening up later in May. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct. That is correct. So let's get into that, but before we do that, so her executive order, and I'm going to try to get this in an email as well. She's got an executive order that really addresses plan, or the phase 1. So, and in phase 1, it says, so you can be, if you're not on this list, you're open. And the list includes, in phase 1, which is only 14 days, could be longer, but it's 14 days, bars and nightclubs, casinos, theaters, museums, and other indoor leisure spaces, trampoline parks, arcades, etc., fitness centers and gyms, nail salons, barbershops, hair, tanning, tattoo, and other personal services where close contact cannot be avoided. So
I have to reschedule my tattoo appointment.
yes, yes.
I've been waiting 8 weeks to get a tattoo. Okay.
Now, then there's other sections that are not allowed to remain closed, and those are community centers, outdoor and indoor large entertainment venues with capacity of 2,000 or more, fairs, festivals, carnivals, parades, commencements, graduations, unfortunately, swimming pools other than backyard pools, organized sports facilities and tournaments, and summer camps. So that's in phase 1. So if you're not in one of those, you're open and you can run your business. Now there's guidelines about spacing, hygiene, best practices,
Right.
all those things.
The 6 feet markers are still going to be on the floor in the retail spaces that exist. And that goes to May 18th, correct?
Correct. Sunday night, May 18th. Now, as part of her executive order, the state has a 2 or 3 page reference that I'm holding here. And it is, if you're a business and you want to know what the guidelines are for the state, they have links to all the guidelines.
Okay.
Health sector, dental offices, spice and coffee shops, manufacturing sector, hospitals, drugstores, eye doctors, veterinarians, professional services. All of these are there. You click on the link, and all of these industries have submitted their best practices to the governor's office. So it's not, the governor didn't write these. The industry wrote their best practices. It doesn't say you have to abide by them, but it's great guidelines. And I've looked at some of them. They're fantastic guidelines. So she's got an order.
Okay.
She's got a reference. And then lastly, as she referenced last night, is her I'm going to call it her plan.
Right.
Now her plan goes into phase 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now, and that's on the covid.ks.gov. I looked that up last night. But where are those specific restrictions for business? Are they on that same website? And I just didn't see the links.
Yeah. The guidelines?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know that they're there yet. I haven't gone into that. We just got out. But what's good about the plan for the viewers, on phase 1, there's a lot of stuff and guidelines and whatever. But phase 1 is a 1-pager on page 6 that really spells out. And then on page 9, it says these businesses are restricted. And on page 11, these activities are restricted or prohibited. So just what I read earlier, those are there, page 6 on phase 1, then page 9 and page 11. And then it goes in, and then it repeats exactly in the same order on phase 2 starts. And then if you go to phase 2, well, what's going to happen after May 18th? Is that what it was?
18th. Mm-hmm.
So after May 18th, if her plan stays in place, you go to page 12, it says the same, and then page 15 and 17. So a lot of those businesses that were in phase 1 are not listed in phase 2, so that means they're okay.
That's right. You can get haircuts after May 18th.
Right. Youth sports.
Swimming pools reopen.
Right.
And I know libraries open right away Monday. But a lot of those service industries that are restricted for 14 more days do open up again May 18th, including the youth sports facilities that we talked about. Anything under the 2,000 mark, right?
And pretty much. And then as well as health centers, health clubs.
Health clubs.
So I don't agree, Janice, with some of it, but it's a plan. It's pretty solid. I go into a health club, and before this ever happened, I'd see staff running around spraying down weights and stuff. Anyway, I think they were probably the most hygienically clean operation before this ever started. So I kind of had put my voice in that I thought health clubs should be part right off the bat, but it is what it is. So there's a few things that there's a lot of people questioning that, but that's really it. So those 3 documents: her real order, the reference to all the industries and then her plan.
Okay.
And that's probably the message that I'm going to try to get that out. So.
No, absolutely. And I appreciate you kind of going over the highlights of that. From the perspective of Sedgwick County, there aren't going to be any amendments or adjustments or extra tightening that's being done to any of her restrictions.
No, and we had a meeting this morning. We realized we didn't even have to have a vote to approve her plan because it is going to happen.
Right.
Now, we could make it more restrictive, but we couldn't take her plan and say, oh, we don't like this. We're okay with that. So like, for instance, health clubs. So, but we talked about a couple of restrictions, possibly she doesn't address public playgrounds.
Right.
Dr. Menz suggested that maybe, but then there's arguments that, especially in the summer, that playgrounds, the sun may help in a matter of minutes. I don't know that. I'm not the scientist or the doctor. And then there was a discussion about buffets when restaurants open. But there was a realization that the businesses, as you've gone into Quick Trip, the self-serve areas, they're all closed.
Right.
I mean, and if you look at the restaurant guidelines, they indicate no buffets to start with until all this gets under. So again, they're policing themselves.
Right.
So although we touched about it, we didn't playgrounds and buffets was really the only two items that came up. Now we did talk about enforcement.
Okay.
I don't know how far reaching your show is here, but our community's done a fantastic job. And that's why our numbers are so low. It was restated by Dr. Menz. We did this at the beginning statewide to make sure our hospitals could handle this if or when it breaks out. The hospitals are fine. We've not had a problem, thanks to our community. So a little discussion about enforcement. There's a call-in number where neighbors can turn in neighbors. I call it for your elderly audience that used to watch Bewitched show, Gladys Kravitz. I call it the Gladys Kravitz line. But we had done a thing where we took a complaint, we looked at it, a staff looked at it, tried to figure out if it seemed valid. And if it did, then we would send a letter to that business saying, hey, it looks like you're not abiding by the stay-at-home order. And in the letter, it would say, you are, but please tell us either why you're okay with this or what you've done to correct it. And for the last month or 38 days, whatever it is, we've sent out 168 letters. Not a whole lot, but enough. Now, what happens after that, nobody knows other than we didn't publish it or anything like that. So
right.
Some of the commissioners and a lot of us, we're not real comfortable with some are calling it snitch line, whatever. So we did recommend that we take down that line right now. We didn't want to overload 911. But I think my thought personally is that our community, our citizens, our businesses, they're so aware of spacing and masks are now kind of a norm. And so, we're a very friendly community. So, you go into your Dillon's or your store and you run into somebody, you sit and talk, you socialize for a while. Well, that isn't happening right now. Even if you go to church, you stay afterwards, have donuts. No, so we don't believe that's necessary. If the police, they're going to do a little education world. If we do get a complaint if we see a large barbecue going on at a park, that's a large gathering,
right?
Sure, the police go by and say, hey, this is, it's more of going to be an education thing.
Okay.
So that came up today.
No, I love hearing that. That's a great explanation. And there was one other question that I had in reading her plan is where do zoos fit in? You talked about playgrounds and she restricted indoor recreation. Are there going to be restrictions on like zoo occupancy? I know there are lots of families who want to get out of the house and do more than walk on a sidewalk.
No, that's a great question because that came up today too.
Okay.
The zoo has a fantastic plan our legal department is going to look into the zoo specifically and work with the state to see. But if you took these mass gatherings, this 2,000 or more, well, the zoo can hold more than that. But if you interpret it one way, you could say, well, there's not any section of the zoo that ever holds 2,000.
Right.
There's not an indoor here or there. And the zoo's done a great job of thinking how they can space people and ticketing and maybe only allow so many people in at a time anyway, or not, just try to do some crowd control. So I'm in favor, and the zoo's got a fantastic plan that they've worked on hard, and they're going to, so we're in favor of let's get that zoo open sooner than later. So we're going to try to get a technicality that would allow something like that, because you can do spacing in a zoo.
Absolutely. I mean, it's wide open. That's a gorgeous large zoo, and families just really, and kids need some incremental activities and stimulation from places other than electronics at this point, right?
True.
Okay. Pete, I want to let you get back to the media and some other things you have to get done today. Thank you for all you do and everything that you guys have been through the last 6 weeks. I really appreciate your leadership and your insight. And I want you to give me what your on the bright side is in all this. What is something you're incredibly grateful for, or that you've looked on the positive side the past couple months?
Well, I referenced my extreme gratitude to the community for what they've done. It's what we've done as a community is why we can fully support getting back open. And so what I'm really brightened about is that we're going to be open at 12:01. If I had a restaurant and I could open at 12:01 Monday morning, I know that the breakfast diners are incredibly happy that they can do this. And I'm just so happy we're getting the economy back open. It just, we just got too much. We've got to do this. The impact is far-reaching. The disease is one thing, but the impact that the economy's had on others could probably be measured in a worse disease than what this one is. So, I'm really encouraged that we can get back open. I'm so thankful to the community.
No, I am too. I'm very thankful that we have a green light, even though it's not bright green, I guess, but it's still green nonetheless. We've been revving our engines ready to go for a while. I thank you so much for giving me a few minutes today, Pete, and look forward to a cup of coffee soon.
Okay. Thanks, Janice. Have
Talk
a good
to you
day.
soon. Bye.
Bye.